What's up?
You tell me.
Getting ready for match day, man. You know how it is. This is a big one. These are weird because, one, it's been a couple years since we've had a playoff game that is a must win. Last week was an important game, but this is absolutely must win. You don't advance if you don't get a win one way or the other in regulation or in a shootout. So it's been since 21 in Yankee Stadium, and it's been since 19 in the Eastern Conference Final at the Benz for a game like this. And you can try to fool yourself all you want that it's just like any other game. It's not. It has a different feel. It has a different set of emotions. It has a different, I think, cadence to it. So just ready to get it started. Honestly, at this point, I've tried to keep myself busy with a million other things. I'm just ready to get this game kicked off.
So now that you've had time in your prep from game one, getting ready for game number two, man, it sounds. Now, is that your yard or mine?
That's mine. They're right outside the window right now.
Okay, because I get the same thing sometimes, and I didn't know if it was my yard or not.
Yeah, they literally just showed up right outside the window.
Important piece coming back for Atlanta United for game number two in Thiago Almada.
Yeah, Thiago spoke to the media yesterday, and he asked for forgiveness and apologized for what happened in Cincinnati. He forgot he was on a yellow from the first half. He said it's rare that he's on a yellow card, so he wasn't even really thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, he was frustrated, and he kicked out at somebody. He made a mistake. It happens, and I think it happens, that kind of mistake happens with young attacking players who lose their head, get frustrated. They're getting pushed, kicked, elbowed, chirped at, like everything you can imagine all night long, and at times they react, and you've got to not react, and that's the hardest thing when it feels like things are tilted against the attacking player, and they've got to find ways not to react. And Thiago reacted. He got sent off in Cincinnati. It hurt him in game one. There's no way around it. I mean, you can try to come up with a tactical plan, and you can have a good idea of what you want to do, and you can ask players to do some different things. When you have Thiago Almada in your team, you have a better chance to win. It's just that simple. And Thiago is going to be in a spot today where, you're not putting it all on him. There's other players around. I think he makes other players better. But you're also asking him to be that guy that we all think he is and can be. And we've seen it plenty of times this season where he's put the team on his back. And you're going to need that again today from him in a moment like this. He does have experience in knockout games. He hasn't played in a playoff game in MLS before. But going back to the old Copa de la Liga in Argentina where they would have playoffs at the end of it, he has played in a couple of those sorts of knockout games. He's played in some knockout rounds of the Copa Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana during his time with Vélez. And he's the kind of guy that I don't feel like the spotlight is going to be too bright for him. It's just how you handle a team like Columbus, who does such a good job of clogging up the middle. It's a real amoeba kind of a team in the sense that you have one true center back in Rudy Camacho. The last game, and look, they tweak things game to game. They're not going to just roll out the same group and do the exact same things that they did last week. But last week they had two fullbacks that were converted to center backs, and Malte Amundsen and Steven Moreira. Moreira's played center back all year long, but he's a fullback. He plays as that additional center back who can step into the midfield. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He did the last time out against Atlanta. It wouldn't surprise me if today he didn't, and that happened from the other side, because that's the way Wilfried Nancy rolls. He likes to mix things up and keep you on your toes. So you have that, and you have two guys in the converted fullbacks that are center backs who can step into the midfield and clog things up. You have two great central midfielders in Aiden Morris and Darlington Nagbe. And you have oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes you have wingbacks who can tuck inside as well and clog things up. We've seen Julian Gressel play as a central midfielder. We've seen Sean Zawadzki play as a center back, as a central midfielder, as a wingback for this Columbus team. They can come in and clog things up. So for Tiago, I think the real challenge today is finding space and finding ways to, and I know when we talk about big games, we say that we don't want players to hide. He's got to go hide at times in the buildup, and it's not to not want the ball, but to not want the ball at the right times. He's got to get into those spots where he can get the ball in a dangerous moment and make something happen. And hopefully he can do that. And I think getting him back, and you would expect that the team would go back to the kind of lineup that we saw, the 4-3-3, what we saw late in the season. Once Saba Lobjanidze kind of took up his starting spot, although Edwin Mosquera has been really, really good. And if he gets the start, I'm not going to be shocked. Jay Fortune has been really, really good. If he gets the start, I'm not going to be shocked. But I think you can safely assume that you're going to go back to the starting lineup we saw on Decision Day and in the matches preceding that. So Tiago's got to carry this team at times, but also I think know when to carry this team at times. And that's going to be the balancing act for him tonight.
When you mention Wilfried Nancy, what's the best adjective to describe him as a coach? Underappreciated comes to mind. I mean, I'm flying below the radar sounds cliche-ish, but does he not get enough respect as a coach in Major League Soccer, primarily because of location?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, this time with Montreal as well. I think that is a market that doesn't get talked about enough. I feel like we were talking about it a lot during his time there, that he was one of the best managers in the league, getting what he got out of that group. He's just a really interesting tactician. And I think we're seeing more and more guys like this in the game worldwide, whether, we're talking about an Ange Postecoglou, Roberto De Zerbi, guys who think outside the box. I think there's managers like your Peps and your Klopps, and go further back with Mourinho, who are progressions from what we've seen before, and they take it to another level. And maybe in Pep's case, they take a Johan Cruyff's instincts and codify it a little bit, and they create a template, and other managers can follow that template to a degree and add things and take things away and put things in their own words. Guys like Nancy and De Zerbi and Postecoglou, to me, yeah, they study all that. They look at all that, and they have that as a foundation to what they believe in. But then they're not afraid to just completely throw that in the trash and reimagine it. And I think Bielsa is a guy who did this as well. He didn't come from the positional play school of the Dutch and of Barcelona. He reinterpreted aspects of that. So you see the positional play folks from Argentina who have come from the Bielsa tree have a very different approach than Pep and Cruyff and that side. Nancy is fascinating to me in that positions don't really matter. Structure isn't super important. He will almost create decoys in the way that his team's set up. Go back to the game here in the regular season where Sean Zawadzki was primarily before that game playing as a center back, as one of the additional center backs. This game, he played as a wing back, but he played it so differently than Yaboa would play the wing back on that role. And we saw Yaboa up there. He's going to stretch the field. He's more of a traditional winger. Zawadzki tucked inside and didn't just from a pure, where is he on the field? He wasn't standing in the middle of the field. He was bringing the play to the middle of the field. He would stay at home a little bit more in his wingback role, made the line a little longer on that side than you might have thought. That really frustrated Brooks Lennon. It also allowed Alexandru Matan to really stretch the field wide on that side. That's different. That was a really interesting tweak. This past game, Moreira playing as a center back, but he didn't come into the midfield to join Nagbe and Morris often. He went past them. He went and joined the front line often. So it's a center back who you're trying to get into that pocket of space that we see a number 10 in often. And Gonzalo Pineda's creative as well. Talk about Brooks Lennon. Brooks Lennon gets into that space a lot. But for a center back out of a 3 to get into that space, and it wasn't like Andrew Gutman running through that space that we would see last season and at times early this year. Gutman would run through the space to get into the 18. Morera would go there and he'd set up shop, and he was there as a pivot in a lot of ways in the possession for Columbus. That's creative. These are things that are hard to deal with, and it's something that when it goes wrong, everybody will yell and point and say, why are you doing something different? When it goes right, it's got to be talked about in terms of giving him that praise of seeing things differently. And I think Wilfried Nancy is maybe the best tactician, pure tactician in the league. I want to see how he handles a game like this. This is going to be interesting because he's got basically another card to play in his back pocket. If the series goes to a third game, he gets to go back home. Does that entice him to be even more daring in this game, knowing that he's got another roll of the dice? Or does it entice him to be more defensive than maybe we're accustomed to on the road, knowing how good Atlanta is at home and knowing how important getting the first goal is for his team? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. That chess match between these two, and I think you saw in the first half how it played out for Atlanta. If they get a goal in the first half of the first half, we're having a very different conversation. If they get to halftime with it scoreless, we're having a very different conversation about that first game. You don't. And the idea that Gonzalo Pineda came in with, even if you don't give up that early goal in the second half, I would have been intrigued to see if it could have worked a little bit more, because it worked really well early, and Columbus didn't get a lot of really good opportunities. So it's going to be interesting again today with the desperation element added from the Atlanta side, and just how Wilfried Nancy plays that is going to be fascinating.
All right, how much more time do we have?
I got time, actually. I've got plenty of time since I don't have to get on a plane or anything crazy today.
Okay. So then my next question, you kind of addressed a little bit. How from the second or third floor, second and a half floor, how intriguing is it going to be for you to see this chess match, if I could get my upper plate to work, between Wilfried Nancy and Gonzalo Pineda in this environment as opposed to what you got to see there in Columbus?
Well, it's just that desperation element added to it that changes it, because, if it's not working, or let's say Columbus gets an early goal against the run of play in the first half, you don't have time to wait if you're Gonzalo Pineda to allow your team to grow. You've got to be bold and aggressive. And if that means making a first half sub, you've got to make a first half sub. That's the change here. And I don't know how Columbus handles that under Nancy, because you do have to think back. There isn't much in his time in Montreal, and this is his first year in Columbus, of a history of these backs against the wall games that he's been in. And this one's not purely a backs against the wall game for him. I mean, he doesn't want it to go 3 games, but he's got one more roll of the dice here if he doesn't get the win on the road in this game. So how does he play it? I don't know. I don't think he will concede possession. I don't think Atlanta's going to concede possession either. And they did not in Columbus either, by the way. And it's something that the definition of words is a very important thing. And that's why dictionaries are still used. And even if it's dictionary.com, conceding possession means you don't want it. Sometimes the other team takes it. And that's what happened in Columbus. They were able to dominate possession. Atlanta wanted the ball. Trust me. I had the conversations before the game. I know how this team plays. They wanted the ball. They couldn't get the ball enough in moments, especially as the night went on. And again, it's, I think, a big reason why that happened is Columbus flooding certain parts of the field and disrupting Atlanta. Atlanta was able to build up pretty well early on. I don't think the build-up play was the issue. Once Columbus got the ball, they did a good job of keeping it and making things happen with it. Tonight, I don't see Columbus being defensive in the sense that they concede possession. I do see them being potentially And probably as the night goes on, if they're in a favorable position, being more conservative positionally. That doesn't mean they don't want the ball, but they might keep that wing back at home, for example, make it look a little more like a line of 4/5 at times than we're accustomed to seeing from them. Nagbe and Morris might stay deeper at times to try to clog up zone 14 at the top of the 18-yard box. Things like that. I don't think they are defensive in the sense that they will bunker and not want the ball. I think it'll be positionally. They'll try to keep some numbers behind the ball defensively and maybe not risk as much going forward at times. But I don't know. Wilfred Nancy's the kind of guy who might throw that set of rules out the window and say, you know what, I'm going to come out in the first 15 minutes and be even more aggressive to try to catch them by surprise. If it doesn't work out, then maybe we adapt and drop a little deeper. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's going to be a lot of fun to break down and talk about, though.
All right. So before we take the tour, go through the Twitch pitch and everything else in Major League Soccer broadcast plans.
Yeah, 6:30 on 92.9 the game, 7:09 for the kickoff. I know that question had come up a few times. It's not a Fox game, so it's a 7:09. Any game that's on Apple only is always a 9 after the kick time that's announced. That's when they start it. Odyssey app, as always, the Atlanta United app, as always, and Apple TV MLS Season Pass. You can choose the home team radio. And if it's not there immediately after the usually like 7:05 break or so, go back out and come back in, and it'll trigger. Like sometimes if you're already there and you wait for it to come in, it won't come in. You have to go back out and back in. I did that with the Kansas City game this weekend.
All right. Joe Bost, as we take the tour of the Twitch pitch, the RSL Houston match was bonkers. Didn't feel like it would finish 11-11.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who and it's not how we function on soccer social media, but anybody who was leading the charge of this playoff format's stupid, it's bad, it's horrible, the games are going to be bad, everything sucks. Wrong. I mean, I just don't know how else to say it. And please put your hand up and say I was wrong, because it's been good. It's been interesting. It's been dramatic. There's been a lot of games that have been bonkers in all of these rounds. I mean, there's been very few clunkers out of any games played in the postseason so far. That doesn't guarantee that the format's perfect and you won't have a clunker at some point down the road or in a future year or whatever. But I think the best of 3 result is the only thing that matters. Setup has worked beyond MLS's wildest dreams. And you're seeing it in these kinds of games. I mean, Dallas was another example where the lower seed goes on the road. They lose. The home team was favored in that first round game. That's why they're the higher seed. They win that game, and you come back and you have what Atlanta has tonight, where you've got to find a way, one way or another. You've got to find a way. And RSL found a way. And Jefferson Savarino with that free kick, and then going into the shootout, I think it's really difficult if you're Amin Bassi in that situation where you're taking your second penalty of the night. You had your first one saved. You did put home the rebound, but it's very easy to get in your head in that situation of, do I do what I do on penalties and just do it again, and that's what I do, and I'm not going to change? Oh, wait, I did it and I got saved the first time. I got to change, right? No, but he's expecting me to change. No, he's not expecting me to change. What am I going to do? And he tried to go down the middle, and Zach McMath just waited him out. Like everybody's going to yell at Bassi in that. I think it's really difficult when you're in that spot. But then the flip side for Ben Olsen is he's your best guy, and he takes penalties. You're not going to have him in the shootout in your season on the line in this situation, an opportunity to advance. Of course you're going to have him take it. It's really a difficult spot. Penalties are brutal. And in this case, Zach McMath was your hero by being patient.
So, all right. So since you mentioned penalties, can we go back and talk about Red Bulls and FC Cincinnati for a second?
As I take a sip on my Red Bull, yes.
You want to talk bonkers?
What aspect of the bonkersness do you want to talk about?
Well, we could go about all the bonkersness, and I know that I know we talked about Matt Miazga yesterday with a special edition of Reffing Down here, but we can get into that too. So if I just said match 2, Red Bulls FC Cincinnati, go.
When you have teams that play in the manner that these two do, and Cincinnati can do more with the ball than any of the other pressing-oriented teams. Cincinnati is a better ball-playing team than any of the rest of them. But at their heart, they're a combative team like this. Red Bulls, that's what they have. And Tom Barlow is the, I think, prime example of that. He's a forward who probably wouldn't play in any other team but St. Louis, Philadelphia, maybe. He wouldn't play in Cincinnati, and he'd play in Red Bull. And he's a perfect fit for them. And you got all the combativeness you could imagine. And I just don't understand at this point in his career why Matt Miazga cannot keep his emotions in check. And it's probably a big reason why his career has had the trajectory that it has had. And if I'm Greg Berhalter, he's a player that I would not trust in big moments because of how he handles his emotions. It takes a special player to get 3 yellow cards when they upped the accumulation to prevent players from missing either a game 3 or the first game of the knockout round, the Eastern Conference semifinal. They upped the accumulation to 3 to make it more difficult to miss a game due to accumulation. And he got 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think game 1, he got it for dissent as well. I don't think it was for a foul.
Yeah.
He got just a completely and utterly dumb yellow at the end of regulation for dissent.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got an even dumber yellow in the shootout for taunting.
I think it was
unsporting behavior is going to be the official term.
Yeah.
It's dumb. I don't really know how else to put it. He's too good of a player to be that dumb in those moments, and you can't trust him in those moments. And I think you kind of got a sense of that frustration out of Pat Noonan after the game. Like, he's got to know better. He doesn't know better, Bart. He's got to. He's got to. And yeah, I know there's some U.S. men's national team fans who love the trolling that he did with Mexico. And whatever. I get it. But there's no way I'm playing him in a game that matters, because I think every game that I've seen him play for Cincinnati, he has been out of control at times. And his comments afterwards to the Cincinnati newspaper about being singled out are absurd. He shoved his finger in Victor Rivas's face 3 different times after he was begging for a yellow card, and he got it. And I know a lot of people were yelling about Rivas after that game. There's only so much you can do when you're a referee, and both teams want to engage in that kind of behavior. You know, people yelled at the referee in 2006 with the Dutch and Portugal. The players in the match decided that they were going to kick each other and they were going to argue and they were going to do everything possible in that game to draw cards. Well, okay, they got their cards. In this game, Rivas did everything possible to try to keep it 11v11, and he ultimately did. You can only do so much. I don't think it's on Rivas. Miazga has definitely hurt his team. And it's just something that if I'm a manager, I've got some serious reservations about trusting him going forward. He's a very good player. He was in my best 11 when I voted. Great player, but can't trust him in big moments. And all the nonsense, and it's absolute nonsense. It is revisionist history that he was just trying to show love to the fans of the club that he had come from. No, he was not. Watch his reaction when he's doing it, and they're booing him, by the way, and watch his reaction. He acknowledges that he's getting booed, and then he keeps doing it again. He knew exactly what he was doing. Don't listen to the nonsense. He wasn't singled out. He did it to himself. Matt screwed Matt in this case. for your Bret Hart fans out
There
there.
you go. I'm guessing this was to Pat Brennan at the Cincinnati Enquirer. I found the quote.
Oh.
I'm annoyed. The referee gave me a yellow card. For what? I went to my fans that I played for since I was 14 years old and gave them a heart. Sidebar. It wasn't even a heart. He couldn't even get that right. I gave them a heart and I was showing them my love. I get a yellow card for that? For what? For what? And I have to take that and I'm suspended now? And after the game, he gives me a yellow card because I asked, what the hell are you doing? Everyone's yelling at the referee. Yeah, of course I feel singled out. I was speaking to him, meaning Rivas, the whole game normally. He's talking to me nicely all game, end quote.
You were not speaking to him normally throughout the game because multiple times you were screaming and being very demonstrative and showing the referee up. You were trying to anyway. And Rivas, to his credit, did not throw an early card on you acting a fool, Mr. Miazga. Second, sure, you might have been saying what you said after the game, but you were also shoving your finger in his face multiple times.
Yeah.
You didn't touch him, but that is going to get you a yellow card. And stop with the nonsense because you heard the reaction. They did not appreciate your heart sign and your love for the Red Bulls fans that you haven't played for in a long time. And they made that clear to you that they did not appreciate that. And then you did it again, absolutely in a mocking / trolling way. So please, we're all smarter than that. Just take your yellow cards and watch from the stands in the Eastern Conference semifinal round. And hopefully you will learn from this because if your team advances, you owe all of them a lot of lunches because you've made it a lot more difficult for them to advance. Good job, Matt Miazga.
Yeah. So can a finger to the face be considered violent conduct and just get a straight red?
No, you'd have to touch him. It's not violent conduct. You can't rearrange the meaning of words to make that violent conduct. He would have had to have touched him, and it wouldn't be violent conduct. That's referee assault. This could go under referee abuse, but that's for that's like a post-game suspension kind of conversation. You're never going to send somebody off for that unless he is saying something along with the finger pointing. That is one of the magic words that'll get you sent off.
Public service announcement from Abby. Apparently, there's going to be a special gift for you and Mike in the booth. You may need it.
That's always good. Is it an oxygen tank? I might need that, depending on how this game goes.
And Bart is asking, can you confirm or deny the rumors you'll be eating one of the rib mac and cheese platters tonight?
I can deny it. We don't get that kind of grub up in the press box. We get great press box food, but that I think is a very limited item. So that's going to go to one of the fans. I want to say there's like 300. Oh, it's 50. It's even less.
I think it was 50 that they were going to do the massive wraparound rib shut. Yeah, I think there's like 50 available.
Yeah, I'm not taking one of the 50. No. I don't like to eat anything super heavy before a game. I really don't. I usually eat pretty light. Like when we go on the road places, we'll go out and have a nice dinner the night before, but lunches are usually pretty light. Sometimes the meals at the Benz do try to test you in that regard.
They do.
The mac and cheese is always a winner, and I'm really hoping that there's some mac and cheese in the Benz tonight in the press box.
Yeah, Joe Boss says if it goes to penalties, we all may need nitroglycerin and oxygen.
Yeah, we will. This is going to be a game that, one, it's why we all do this in whatever capacity that we do it, right? These are the games with that little bit of extra in it, and this is what we live for. So just my request is that, especially early, everybody is loud and raucous, and I think this team's going to come out fast. I think they're going to come out with a ton of energy straight out of the gate and try to do what Dallas did against Seattle at home and get a couple of goals early. And if you got to hold on a little bit, you got to hold on a little bit. Columbus hasn't been a great second half team this year.
Right.
Early goals are the key, but there's going to be moments, even if you come out and you're a house of fire for 15, 20 minutes, whatever. Let's say you get a goal. Let's say you don't get anything. Let's say it's scoreless at the end of that and you've had chances. Those are the moments where I think the crowd is even more important because it does have an effect on a game. It does have an effect on a player. And you're at the point in the year where everybody's tired, everybody's beat up, everybody's got something at this point. Whether you rolled your ankle a month ago and it's still bothering you a little bit, that hamstring is twingling a little bit. You've got issues at this point physically because it has been a long year. There's going to be moments where they're going to have to catch their breath. They're going to have to get reset. They're going to have to get reorganized. Those are the most important moments, in my opinion, from the Gulch, from the fans all over the stadium. This isn't just a supporters group thing. Like, this is everybody. Those are the moments where you can actually have the most impact, where you can give a lift in a game that might need it at that point. And just understand that this is a team that you've seen all year long that has fought and fought and fought to the final whistle. And if there's time on the clock, they're going to be in the game. So help them as much as you can. Like, this is why, again, why we all do the different aspects of what we do. So don't leave anything in the tank at the end of the night tonight. I'm expecting by the time we get to whatever the full-time report is at the end of the night that I'm going to be gasping for air. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to feel it. And I hope that everybody in the building kind of goes in with that understanding tonight that you got to leave everything in there tonight. And hopefully it means that we're going to Columbus on Sunday with an opportunity to roll the dice and try to knock out a higher seed. No guarantees in this game, but don't leave with regrets. And I don't think the players are going to. I don't think anybody's going to at this stage. I hope not, because this is it. This is why we do it. And I really hope that understand the role that the people in the stands have too. This is big, and support these guys. They fought all season long. Give them that support. Try to give them energy when they need it, and hopefully make this a really difficult place for Columbus to come in and feel comfortable.
All right, one more thing off the page before I let you go. Big news yesterday for Oglethorpe in the D3. They are in a pod that is local this weekend.
Yeah, lots of big news on the college side, actually. Emory is hosting that pod. Emory won the UAA, and Oglethorpe won the SAA. So if they both win their first round games, they will meet in the round of 32 for an opportunity to go to the Sweet 16. That's amazing. That's Saturday and Sunday at Emory. The first games are on Saturday at 1 and 3:30. Emory at 1, Oglethorpe at 3:30. And then University of Georgia, they won the SEC for the first time ever after winning the division for the first time ever. They're going to host an NCAA tournament game against Liberty. Down Peach Belt Conference down in Morrow on Friday and Sunday. Clayton State men hosting the semifinals and the final. That Clayton State team is a really good one to watch. So you've got a lot of opportunities with local soccer at a variety of levels this weekend in tournament games, in big games for men, for women. It's exciting to see not just so many local teams that have something to play for and are going to host games at the stage of the year, or in Oglethorpe's case, be across town, but to see so many local products on these teams as well. Players who have played local high school ball, who have played for pretty much every club in the metro Atlanta area, and many have played in clubs all over the state and all over the region. So it's a really special time of year, and whatever you have left in the tank after you replenish yourself after tonight, get tomorrow and support Clayton State if you can. Go out to Emory on Saturday and support Oglethorpe and support Emory. I'd love to see Oglethorpe and Emory in the biggest match that they've ever had against one another, and they've been playing since 1961. I'd love to see both of them win and get a rematch, because that first game was electric in Brookhaven, a 2-2 draw. I'd love to see Georgia make a run this year. And I think what Kadani McAlpine has done with UGA in 2 years is incredible. And I'd love to see him make a run. That's a team that can go deep in the tournament. So hopefully all these teams can get great crowds, great support, win and continue to advance. And that's Atlanta United, that's Clayton State, that's Oglethorpe, that's Emory, that's Georgia, that's everybody. I think SCAD's in the tournament as well down south. So tons of teams all over the place. Just want to see all the local teams continue to advance.
Choice D, all of the above. Partner, we'll see you at Mercedes-Benz tonight, and thanks for hanging out with us here on a match day.
Yep, 7:09. Get that into your seats a little bit early and be loud.
So what he said, loud. Be good, partner.
Adios.